Information Station, 1370 WOCA.
WOCA.
All right, 20 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. 2 days ago, we went to this marching band competition, and there were no harpists. Nobody was playing the harp in the marching bands, and yet the trophy had a harp at the top of the trophy, and I was thinking, what's a harp? And the thought came to mind about, well, when you die, you play a harp, you know. So
right.
Do harps go well? I mean, could you have a whole bunch of harps and sound good? I don't know. It just sounds like it would be like a whole bunch of accordions. I think you have to have a variety of instruments,
yes,
right?
You do.
So I'm hoping when I die that I love harps, but I really prefer like guitar or something. Mm-hmm. If I'm going to play a musical instrument, I want to play something. I'm being silly, but at the same time, I actually am serious. I've often thought, well, when you die, what do you actually do? I mean, what's your job? Mm-hmm. What do you do once you go to heaven, go to the other side? Dr. Eben Alexander is probably the last person you would suspect to have that answer. He is a scientist. He's an academic neurosurgeon. He had a transcendental near-death experience. He was driven to the brink of death and spent a week deep in a coma, it says, from an inexplicable brain infection, and he's written a book. I wish I had the book. It's not here. It's called The Map of Heaven, How Science, Religion, and Ordinary People Are Proving the Afterlife. I want to hear about this. I wish we had longer time to speak to him, too. Dr. Eben Alexander, good morning, sir.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Where are you right now?
I'm in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is where I live.
And you had a near-death experience?
I did. It was 6 years ago in November 2008, in which I came down with a very severe case of bacterial meningitis. It was a kind that almost always occurs in newborns, but I was 54 years old at the time. And it drove me into coma within a few hours, and given those facts alone, gram-negative bacterial meningitis and rapid descent into coma, that put me at about a 10% chance of survival at the beginning of that week. As anybody who knows about meningitis will realize, within 2 or 3 days, such patients that ill with bacterial meningitis are either dead or starting to wake up. And I was neither one of those. I kept going. And so by day 7, my doctors were faced with what they said was a 2% chance of survival, no chance of recovery. And that's when they recommended just stopping the antibiotics. And that's when I started coming back to this world. But when I did, my brain was devastated, just as they would have predicted. Words, language, all my memories of life before, everything gone. Even though my mother, sisters, and sons were standing around the bed, I had no idea who those beings were because my brain was so savage. Illness. But it came back, words and language over days and weeks, and my childhood memories over 2 or 3 weeks, and knowledge of more than 20 years spent in neurosurgery came back over about 8 weeks. And over that time, I was also busy recording my entire journey from deep in coma. I wrote it all down at the very beginning, trying to have a clear slate on which to review the data of my journey, and I'm glad I did that.
Okay, what's in the journal? What did you reveal? What did you mean? This is the afterlife part?
Yeah, a lot of it is, of course, reported in the book Proof of Heaven. Really, the journey consisted of 3 main parts that I talk about. The Earth Were My View, a very primitive, simplistic underground view that I think in retrospect was the best consciousness my physical brain could muster while it was soaking in pus. That's the reason the medical and scientific communities take my story so seriously is because of my diagnosis. That kind of a severe bacterial meningitis would wipe out the whole human part of the brain, the neocortex, leaving no place for dreams, hallucinations, confabulations, drug effect, or what have you to emerge. And that was the big challenge to me over months after my coma, was trying to explain it, especially in the face of everything I came to realize about the nature of my illness. It should have allowed nothing in the way of rich experience, and yet it allowed for the blinders coming off and a far richer experience than I ever could have imagined.
What did you experience? What did you see?
Well, in this, the coarse realm then led to a beautiful spinning white light that opened up like a rip in the fabric of that ugly world around me up into this idyllic, ultra-real Gateway Valley. It was filled with beautiful waterfalls and the sparkling pools and lots of what I originally described as peasants dancing, souls between lives, lots of joy and merriment, and the flowers, blossoms, buds on trees, everything in constant growth, never any death or decay, everything in perpetual creation and growth and beauty, and colors beyond the rainbow on the wings of a butterfly, and there were millions of other butterflies. And of course, this goes far beyond just the kind of butterfly that an earthly entomologist could give you genus and species. It took a lot more reading and near-death literature to realize that butterflies, of course, are very commonly the conveyance in that realm, and you encounter them all the time, and also as messengers from that realm. I've heard some of the most amazing stories of people with butterfly encounters in the middle of the winter in New England, for example, that the butterfly is the messenger of the departed soul of a loved one, that kind of thing.
Really? You mean in this lifetime or in the afterlife?
Well, they bridged both worlds. I mean, they are definitely a huge part of the afterlife.
Okay. Can I ask a question about something you said? You said the dancing peasants were like between lives. Were they coming or going?
There were souls between lives. I mean, a huge part of this understanding, and I go into this in Map of Heaven, has to do with reincarnation. There's no way to begin understanding the eternity of souls without seeing that we actually keep coming back over and over again in that path of ascendance towards oneness with the divine through that unconditional love, through many incarnations. Nobody just gets it in one incarnation here. Mm-hmm. And the evidence for past life memories in children is overwhelming. I'd never paid attention to that before. A huge part of the reason I've learned a lot, between writing Proof of Heaven and Map of Heaven has to do with how it fits into the science. And the science is all about the deep mystery of non-local consciousness. And any scientist who gets it all into brain, mind, and consciousness, sooner or later gets to the point where they realize that the brain does not create consciousness at all.
The book, again, is called The Map of Heaven. It's written by Dr. Eben Alexander. Am I saying your name correctly?
Well, it's Eben.
I'm sorry. Dr. Eben Alexander. Eben is how it's spelled if you're looking him up, and we'll tell you more at the end. And we only have a minute and a half or so. Did your life change because of that experience? Everything
changed. I mean, just as you'll hear that from tens of thousands of near-death experiencers if you look on the internet, and millions by extension. Everything changes. It's a realization that our souls are eternal, that these incarnations down here in Soul School are part of the learning process of our ascending soul groups. All of humanity is part of an ascending soul group in learning and this evolution of consciousness of understanding. And that's what Map of Heaven is all about. Plus, it offers the individual tools for any seekers out there who want to get into deep meditation and centering prayer, because the answers lie within us all. And in the appendix to the book, I talk about my work with sacred acoustics and how providing differential sounds to offer up tools for deep transcendental conscious awareness are out there for everyone to use. This is something we all know.
Wow, there's so many more questions I think we probably have. The book, again, is called The Map of Heaven. And you said the previous book was called Proof of Heaven?
Called The Proof of Heaven, A Neurosurgeon's Journey into the Afterlife.
Okay. Well, thank you for being on the air with it. It's a fascinating story, and it is certainly one that we all want to know. If I could squeeze in one quick question. When people say they communicate with people who've passed on, what do you think? Is that true? Are people being...
That's very real. Our souls are eternal. There's a beautiful book called Hello from Heaven by Bill Guggenheim all about exactly that. After-death communications are real. They're just further evidence. And those stories are also out there by the millions and millions. People who have seen it, and there's no way it's just wishful thinking or imagination.
Wow. I know you're doing a lot of radio shows this morning, so thank you for stopping by our show and doing this with us. The book is The Map of Heaven. Real quickly, what's a good website?
Eben, that's E-B as in Baker, E-N, Alexander.com. Also Eternia, ETERNEA.org. and IANDS.org.
Okay.
Near-Death Studies website.
All right, we'll put all of this up online so people can get it quicker or in their leisure. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Well, thanks for having me.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. A Dallas nurse who got Ebola while treating a patient who died is now in isolation. Her home was decontaminated as neighbor Libby Franks watched.
It's kind of scary, but I think they'll get it under control.
At New York's JFK Airport, passengers from West Africa are being screened for Ebola.
Anyone who has a fever will then be interviewed to see whether they may have had contact with someone infected with Ebola. The screenings will expand this week to Newark's Liberty, Washington's Dulles, Chicago's O'Hare, and Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson airports.
Fox Radio's Tanya J. Powers. Gay couples in Alaska can now tie the knot after a federal judge overturned the state's gay marriage ban.
Last week, the U.S. Supreme Court decided not to get involved in the issue, so gay marriage is now effectively legal in about 30 states.
Fox Radio's Rachel Sutherland. A powerful storm has left one person dead in Arkansas. Forecasters say there's a danger of damaging winds and rain from northern Louisiana to southern Illinois. Fox News. We report, you decide.
You use the motor oil Dad used, and he uses what Granddad used. Yet no one uses what Great-Granddad used, because whale oil's illegal. But if oil's what you need, Napa has you covered. With Castrol GTX for only $3.79 a quart, or 5 quarts in a Napa Silver filter for just $21.99. No harpoons needed. Conquer the job with Napa Know-How. General states pricing. Sales prices do not include applicable state, local taxes, or recycling fees. At participating Napa Auto Parts stores. Offer expires 11/16/14.
What's the secret to great business trips? Choice Hotels, where you'll find everything a business traveler needs, like a generous rewards program. And right now, when you take 2 separate trips at Comfort Inn or any Choice Hotel, you can earn 1 night free. Stay for business at Choice Hotels